Mic check. All right, yeah, you gotta talk like right into
like right here?
Yeah.
Shut up, man.
What up, playa? Hold on, let's get this going. Oh, I messed it up. Let's get it going again.
Let's get it going. In a one, in a two, in
This
a
way.
three.
Alright. Happy I guess Lunar New Year too.
Oh, that's right.
The Vietnamese New Year and other
China too,
Chinese,
as well.
yeah. Lunar style. So Happy New Year.
Happy
It's
New Year.
Beautiful fucking New Year.
Oh, it's the year of the
ox.
The ox.
So like if in Vietnam it's the water buffalo. It's a little different. But I also think of it as like a bull.
Yeah,
Like a bull
in the
run.
bull market.
Yeah, that's
how
how I'm interpreting it, you know. So
I think it's probably not too far off from the truth, because just the way life is going, it's been like the most interesting, like Elon said, the most what is it? Not interesting.
The most entertaining outcome I think is gonna be the most likely.
Yeah,
pretty
Destiny
much.
loves. Yeah,
I'd like to see that as far as just altcoins and all the different cryptos and blockchain utilize, not just I think he was referring to doggy, which would be funny as fuck, but
yeah, I think in the long run though we'd be in the same boat as if fiat dollars. Yeah,
it's kind of just funny money. It's funny crypto.
I mean, they could change the algorithm to not add, but still, like, what is it? Over 50% is in the hands of like 21 people or something like that.
Yeah, basically, I think it's 27% is owned by one person,
one individual.
I think that was that $2 billion purchase that was like only a couple weeks ago, and then and then
it kind of
50% owns like 20% own.
Kind of defeats the purpose of the decentralization aspect that we want to see out of crypto, right?
Yeah, exactly, and the finite amount of it as well.
I think that being said, that's why we got to get our American establishment on board too, because as of right now, China mines like 70% of all the Bitcoins out there.
Yeah.
So it's, even though it started out as a decentralized form, it's starting to become more centralized because we're being slow to adapt it on a national scale, at least. Other countries are kind of already hip to the game.
Yeah, the head of the game.
But with Elon, hopefully with Elon and now MasterCard and Visa hopping on board, I feel like we're right at the cusp of like a global adoption. So
yeah, I mean, it's written on the wall. That's what I've been saying lately. It's everywhere. Like the Bitcoin obviously is the major player, the kind of the face of crypto, and it's popping up your local convenience stores. They got like ATMs and whatnot, and yeah, like you said, Visa, MasterCard, they're all starting to make it available on their platforms to buy, sell, trade, whatever. I think.
Well, yeah, Elon said he wants people to be able to buy Teslas, and it's just a matter of time. I heard Apple is gonna invest like $5 billion worth of their treasury into Bitcoin as well. And then what we see is like the trickle down. People start with Bitcoin and then they start going to Ethereum and then down the list. That's what I've noticed anyways, is once you see a pop in Bitcoin and it levels off, then the other ones with smaller market caps, they start to explode. So we are seeing a mass adoption of just cryptocurrency in general, but I think the idea behind it is finally becoming like why do we need it? Why is it so useful? I feel like people are finally starting to get the.
Yeah, so I want to dive into that today as far as our combined understanding of it. Thus far, I'm not, this is disclaimer, we're not like fucking experts in the financial advisors, so
just super excited about this space, man.
We're learning and we want to help other people learn and join the journey and stuff. So but I like the Fed we've known about. I remember like say around 2011 and 12, I think we've been on a parallel journey throughout the years as far as learning different things. And I remember like just learning about that back in the day, watching YouTube videos and learning about the Fed, which growing up I've never knew anything about. I never knew it existed. I never knew such a thing was out there and fucking print at such control of our
Yeah.
money and monetary system.
The
And
Fed is like just, I learned about it with Ron Paul when Ron Paul was running for president and he had that moniker, in the Fed. It's like, what is the Fed? It's like, it's not federal, nor is it a reserve. It's a conglomerate of private banks, and it controls pretty much the world's monetary supply.
yeah,
So much power into that little, entity, and we can't even audit it. We have no idea who really runs the Federal Reserve, and that's just, centralized power like to the max. There's no more powerful entity than the Fed. And that's why they're kind of touchy when it comes to this Bitcoin adoption, because they understand that they're losing control over the world pretty much, and they don't like that.
yeah, it's outside the system, so they don't like that.
So I wouldn't be surprised if, well, you already see it with a lot of, they call it FUD, the fear, what is it, the stand for?
I don't
Yeah,
remember. I haven't
well,
gotten to that one yet. I've seen it though. I know what you're talking
so
about.
the FUD news is basically any type of news that's, gets people scared away from adopting Bitcoin. And they try and tell you it's a scam, they try and tell you that it's going to ruin the world, because they're like, yeah, Bitcoin uses more power than Venezuela. Apparently it's up on the list now.
Like the mining and
the mining takes up it's like number 112 or somewhere up there as far as entities that use up energy. But especially with green energy coming out right now, it's not perfect, but there are ways that we can work with this technology, and we just got to be more creative. I guess they're building a Bitcoin mine, up in the Arctic Circle because it's so hot.
a major mining farm, basically. Like,
imagine farming in the middle of the Arctic Circle. They're not farming veggies, they're farming this imaginary, electronic coin that has potential to literally free humanity from the grips of just sociopaths, man. The people that run the Federal Reserve, they're in a little club and we're not in it. And
exactly. So it's centralized banking, I guess, right? It's not even a bank, or how
the Federal Reserve,
they just print the money.
They don't even really print the money.
Yeah.
But they set the interest rate for what the big banks can do as far as borrowing money. So they slam the interest rate all the way down to zero, and that's creating a distortion in the market. So it's like if we wanted to go get money from a local bank, they probably wouldn't even give us a loan. But the big banks, they get literally free money from the Federal Reserve, and what do they do with it? They don't even lend it to the people. So the Federal Reserve isn't even doing its job anymore. Its job was to stabilize the markets, and it's done a horrible job of that.
They're basically just looking out for their own people,
their own interests. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating when you see the wealth gap. You see the poverty, and they'll lie straight to your face and say that they have lower interest rates so that we can have a lower unemployment rate. But it hasn't done that, and I think people are actually finally losing faith in this entity that was created in 1913 in the middle of Christmas Eve night. Like, it shouldn't even be around. It never really got passed legally by our legislation. It's another dirty secret of the Fed.
Yeah, I think Woodrow, I learned about it. You sent me a video. It's called The Road to RootA, or RootA, and man, that breaks it down. I'm still processing a lot of the information, but it talked about Woodrow Wilson is the one that it was the Federal Reserve Act, and he basically let it pass, and he regretted it. He said he fucked up our nation pretty much.
Because it was touted as this, because we used to have a lot of boom and bust cycles. Well, the booms weren't as big and the busts didn't last as long. But then when we created the Federal Reserve to kind of take care of that, what we did is we made our cycles into like 10-year cycles. So we have a 10-year credit boom, right, where everybody's got a job, everything's good. But then that builds a bubble. And then when that bubble pops, it creates a 10-year depression. So as high up as we go, it's how low as we go. Instead of like when we used to be based on the gold standard, inflation was a steady, a slow and steady rise. Now we see these massive spikes, and it's not good for the economy. The economy wants to have some stable behind it. And, when you create 30% of the dollars ever created throughout the entire, in human existence in 1 year, like they did last year, that's going to cause a distortion. And we're seeing that in the stock market, even though the economy is in shambles. We see all-time highs in the stock market, and now we're seeing it actually balloon into crypto too, which I think is a good thing. But, there's going to be a day of reckoning, and we don't know when that is. With universal basic income, they can extend it for a long time, but inflation is going to become a major issue. That's why a lot of people are trying to FOMO into gold and silver, but those markets are manipulated more than any in the world. So the only option I see for the people being able to come out of this, with still some assets, is to move into the cryptocurrency space. You got to think about it in the 5 or 10 year long term, because it might, crypto might go up 80%, or it might double or triple, and it might crash by 60%. That's just kind of the volatility that we just have to accept, because the one thing we know for sure is that the dollar is going to go to zero. It's already only worth 3 cents compared to when it was enacted in 1913,
Yeah, it's worth 3 cents.
Compared, yeah. If you had 3 cents in 1913, it'd be worth $100 today. Or no, $1. Yeah, it's $1.
Okay, yeah.
So we've lost 97% of our spending power,
Damn. That's crazy.
Yeah. And everybody's looking for an option out, and a lot of people, they're afraid of crypto because they don't understand it. And if you understand the reason why it's there in the first place, it'll help you understand its utilization,
Yeah.
Because we know for a fact that if you have, $100 in 3 years, you're going to lose 3% a year. That $100 is only going to be worth $90.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
But yeah, so RootA, he's Big Swear, he's a guy that I really look up to, and he was a former banker, and he just got sick and tired of all the lies and manipulation. The same thing with Max Kaiser, another former banker. And these guys are the ones that I look up to because they've seen, the issues with the system, and they're putting their necks out on the line to actually try and do something and change it. And they catch a lot of flack, but they know in their heart they're doing the right thing, and I do too. So
that's right. So that video was pretty dope that you sent, and talked a lot about the Federal Reserve and all that stuff. But
I like how they made it into like a cartoon, kind of like a comic book.
Yeah.
Because I feel like we have to get it to the kids. It was meant for kids to kind of learn. Because they don't even teach kids anything about business or money or anything. And we've had to find that out the hard way. We're in our 20s and we're wondering why the world isn't working out the way we want it to. And it's like a lot of it has to do with the monetary policy.
Yeah, so that's why I'm kind of taking it into my hands, I guess, to try to help people understand that, because I feel like people are just oblivious to this shit, and it's like it's just gonna keep going on, or even in fact getting worse if we just keep allowing it to go on, or it's just based off of ignorance. It's like we need to be educated with the systems that are in place, because these systems run our lives, run our world. So it's like, don't you want to know what's going on with the system? Like, we're
People
almost
don't
just
understand.
sheep being herded, and cattle just being herded, and we're just like, bah, wow.
It's like people don't even understand the rules. First of all, they don't even know they're playing a game.
Right.
This thing we call life. The people that are winning at it, they look at it like it's a game. You don't have too high, you don't get too high, and you don't get too low. But once you realize you're in a game, and then you realize the rules to the game, and then you realize certain people play by different rules. Mm-hmm. And so what we're having right now is there's a bunch of people are angry and upset, and they have a right to be, but they don't know where to point the finger. And I hope that we're able to, in the long run, I hope we're able to actually say, like, look, there are people that don't have our best interests at heart, and we literally know who they are. It's the European Central Bank Federal Reserve,
Yeah.
a lot of these virtue financial, they rig the stock market, they rig the gold and silver
Yeah.
market, and you know, they're finally seeing that Bitcoin and blockchain is kind of like the first chink in the armor of the old guard.
Yeah, so that video, I will probably just add it to the link for this video on this YouTube, but because I think it's pretty cool. So the video is about the comic book that the Federal Reserve made in the '60s, and then they readapted it in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
Someone else readapted it, and just made a remake of it, but it's pretty much the same thing except for in the end it was a little different. But so the book, it was really interesting because it touches on what you're talking about as far as like the entities that control the money,
Mm-hmm.
and then the little guys like us that are affected by it. And so the book, it's like it was a children's book, comic book, and a small short one. And the girl, RootA was the girl's name, and it's all written in code though. Basically, it's all encrypted with messages and shit. And so the way they grew up in this place called Pebbletown, and basically that was the United States. And so the girl grows up and it's colorless. There's no color, and the grandma's sitting here telling the stories of a place and people that experience color and know what color is like. Everything's black and white and gray where they're at. And so she's like, what the fuck? And when she's playing in this cave or something, and then bam, the cave falls, and then there's this color of gold light that comes through. And so it basically was talking about the gold standard and that, but it basically lets you know how the Federal Reserve operates. It doesn't really have anything to do with crypto or anything, but it lets you know the Federal Reserve. So like I'm trying to draw a picture for people like the Federal Reserve, and then like alternatives that are outside of that, which is crypto basically, or gold, because
it's competing. We have like competing monetary systems right now, and they're not able to manipulate crypto nearly as much as they are the gold and silver prices, because in a perfect world we wouldn't need crypto, but the bottom line is that people are going to use any advantage that they have, and they use these paper contracts on the gold and silver market to slam the price down. If gold and silver were equatable to the amount of money supply, they would be gold would be worth anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 an ounce instead of 1840 or whatever it's at, and silver would be worth around $600 to $1,000 an ounce. But that would give people a clue as to how much inflation has been brought on by the Federal Reserve. And I think what's happening right now is people are watching crypto, but they're not really putting two and two together. They don't see that it's actually a reflection of the monetary policy of the Federal Reserve.
Right.
And hopefully people are able, once they put that two and two together, then it'll make sense. Because right now people don't understand why Bitcoin's, like 10 times. Why did it go from 4,000 to 45,000 or whatever last year? And it's like, because all this excess money in the system needs to go someplace. Christina Lagarde, the European Central Bank, she called Bitcoin an escape valve. So they are threatened by it, and that's even more of a reason to hop on board.
Exactly, that's what I'm seeing now, and that's why I say the writing's on the wall. Like all these huge institutions are jumping on deck. So it's like this is letting you know the times that we're in, and like once the big institutions do it, like Visa, you got Tesla doing it, you got MasterCard saying they're gonna do it, PayPal's about to start, and Cash App's already doing it. Like these normal things that we're using are gonna start using Bitcoin as payment and stuff like that, and transferable to send it and whatnot. So I mean the writing's on the wall, dude. Like and of course, like you're saying, they're gonna want a piece of that space.
Yeah. And it's like, well, what's the utilization of Bitcoin? It's like the same reason as gold. You don't spend your gold when you go out. You don't really buy cars with gold, although you could cash it in, but it's a preservation of wealth.
Right. And it's to let you know where the dollar stands, kind of, right?
Exactly. And now because they manipulated it for over 100 years, we really don't have any connection between the value of gold or, silver. And so I see Bitcoin as being kind of the digital gold, and then maybe Ethereum or Litecoin being kind of the common man's, silver, where, you can go out in certain places and use silver, especially in a lot of like third world countries, they call them banana republics because, the dictator controls the monetary supply. And, like in Zimbabwe, they have 10,000 or $10 trillion notes, because inflation just got out of hand.
Yeah.
So, gold and silver historically have been the common man's way to avoid, crushing inflation. And now we're in the digital age, and so it only makes sense that we have a non-confiscatable asset like cryptocurrency to usher in this new era. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think we're just seeing the very beginning of it. Imagine being into computers in the 50s and 60s when they first came out.
That's what I try to equate it to with people. Like for the internet, for example, it's like people thought it was a fad. Even up until like 2000, the fucking whole thing, Y2K and shit, people thought it was going to be some crazy shit going to happen.
They thought it was for fax machine. Like, oh, fax machine. Yeah. I can just mail it,
Yeah. And I mean, look at the world now. Everything is done through the internet. Your Zoom meetings with your school like all this e-commerce, social media, everything's done through digital, the digital way. So of course it's everything like streaming. We used to buy CDs and buy VHSs and then DVDs and then whatever. That's obsolete now. We don't need those physical. It's going to be the same thing with
taking up
money,
space. It's clutter.
Especially with the dollars that don't really have any backing. So like we got into the whole silver thing, and I was trying to teach my daughter because like we collected real actual coins from the past that the United States minted as currency, but it was actual precious metal silver, like a certain 90%. So I try to explain to her like this is real money because it's real silver,
which is utilized. You can use it for other things,
right?
Like our technology is built on silver. Silver is one of the main ingredients on all our smart cars and everything else.
So like that quarter, that was a quarter back then because it was a
quarter.
It was 25% or 25 cents worth of silver basically back in the day, like you said. But the money was worth more. So,
and we didn't have these mad swings of inflation. We're on a complete fiat currency, which means it takes belief. Well, the currencies that used to work back in the day wasn't based on belief. It actually had some
exactly. That's
value
what I'm saying.
to it.
So that quarter that I was showing my daughter, that was a quarter back then of silver, 25 cents worth of silver, is worth now like $4 worth of silver.
Yeah.
So that lets you know about inflation, for one, and then for two, it lets you know that was actually had value. Like the dollars, they don't actually have value. Like, what are you gonna do with the dollar? It's probably gonna.
I think what people need to understand, like my main point that I want people to understand is like Rome fell, and part of the reason why they fell is because they devalued their currency.
Right.
All these other empires, Germany in the 1920s, they devalued their currency, and that led to the rise of Hitler. So when you devalue your currency, it has major, major implications. It starts trade wars, and it's like, it starts with currency wars. Then there's trade wars, which is what we're in the middle with China. And then those lead to real wars, which we're pretty much in a full-scale blown war with China, except for the guns, Oh,
yeah, trade war. Yeah, that's what people don't know. We're in a lot of different wars. That people think of war.
They don't even know we're fighting a war. It's like China's fighting us.
Yeah, definitely.
They're at war with us. Now, whether we fight back or not.
Information wars.
They're paying people off under the table. They got spies. Sleeping with some of our government officials.
Really?
Yeah. They're
smart. They're tactical when it comes to warfare.
They have these separate.
And they don't need to go heads up and butt heads. They
use our own system against us.
Yeah. Psychological shit.
They're a totalitarian regime, and there is no major business in China that doesn't have a CCP board member. As a board member.
Really?
So there's nothing that they can do on a grand scale that isn't directed behind the scenes by the CCP.
So that makes sense why they'd want to get into this crypto space and control it.
Exactly. Because they want to, and it's not even legal for their it's not even legal for their citizens to own Bitcoin.
Really?
Yeah, it like I said, 60 to 70% is mined in China, right? But it's for the benefit of the CCP. So
Right.
I like Bitcoin as like the gold standard, but we gotta step up our mining side of it, because if they do take more any more control over that market, then they can do some funny things with it. Like when Bitcoin went up to 42,000, one mining pool F2 pool was responsible for selling 10,000 Bitcoins a day for 3 days, and it crashed the market by $10,000. They
Damn.
made over $1.2 billion in 3 days, and it messes up the markets when you have, a monopoly. No market is good under a monopoly. You need
Right.
competition. That's why I'm very thankful for other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum,
Right.
like
Right. Right.
Litecoin, like Theta,
Yeah.
that also have utility to it. And it takes the Bitcoin Chinese dominance, it kind of lessens that.
Hmm.
But if Bitcoin were to take a major hit, it would affect all cryptocurrencies. So it's just a major problem that we do need to address at some point. But I'll take it for right now.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Um, but one of the things I was thinking about, because of the swings, some of the crypto swings are crazy. Is I really believe that people need to not just be into cryptocurrency to make a quick buck,
Right.
because they're gonna get burned. At some point, you're gonna get burned.
Yeah.
So by kind of, I like to meditate and, pray. I think praying is important. And it just helps me stay grounded. So I don't get too high or too low. If I were to lose, all the money that I have into crypto, I would still be fine, tomorrow. But there's a lot of people out there that are just seeing it as a quick buck to be made,
Right.
and they're gonna have a rude awakening, because the
Right.
party doesn't last forever.
I agree. That's why I encourage people to go out there and learn about it, but in order to learn about it, let me set you off on the right path right away, because there's Bitcoin, which is the face of crypto, and then crypto is a byproduct of blockchain
Mm-hmm.
technology and a blockchain network. So you got to start from the root of things, and blockchain is the root of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
I think the altcoins, all the different cryptos, are just byproducts of the blockchain networks. So like you said, you have to go in and do your research. Don't just follow the ups and downs of the money and look at it as a like the stock market or something. Well, even in the stock market, you want to do your research and what are you investing in, and you want to do, you want to do your due diligence and find out what company you're investing in and what they're doing out in the world, and why they are, if they are providing value,
Mm-hmm.
and how they are providing value, and then go from there and like try to support those companies based on that, not just try to follow where the money, like the whole AMC thing, and that, like people are just trying to jump in and follow the money. It's like you're
Yeah,
gonna get
and they got
burned.
burned
You're gonna
bad.
get burned.
That comes to the part about your values, and investing in investing in companies that share your like-minded values. That's why I don't shop at Walmart.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to buy, some things like light bulbs. Every single light bulb is made in China.
Right.
You know, um, but that being said, it's like when you do your homework and you do find these companies like Theta, for instance, that really truly have a goal in mind to help humanity. I want to invest in companies that are trying to better humanity. And Theta is going to help out with the downloading speeds and streaming services, because a lot of people are getting into virtual reality, which costs a lot of bandwidth.
Mm-hmm.
So Theta will help free up that bandwidth. So that's why I'm not all in on any one thing,
Well,
but
yeah.
I got a bigger bat of Theta, because I believe in their
Yeah.
ultimate goal.
So let's use Theta as the example of doing our due diligence on these blockchain networks and systems, and kind of break that down a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more. So as far as I understand, you got me into the Theta, and Theta, like you said, is a bandwidth thing. So all of the cryptos are based off of, and what blockchain is basically is a decentralized network,
Mm-hmm.
where there's different people that are running the software and are part of the network,
Cooperative.
and
Yeah.
cooperative, and it's decent, it's democratized actually too. So there's not one central place controlling all the flow of money or the or information, or say, like we were saying with Theta, say spectrum is where you get your bandwidth, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's that centralized place. But theta is allowing it. So when you say there's a movie out here, you can stream it from a user, a peer that's within the network. Instead of streaming it from the centralized place, you stream it from someone that holds it on their network,
Localized.
and it's local.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so instead of me having to go to, say, LA is where the bandwidth comes from, no, instead you're like a mile away from me, I could get it from you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get rewarded for that through
Exactly. It's a similar concept to like the power grid, you know. If you're miles away from where the power is being created, that power is losing
yeah,
potential as the longer it has to go.
yeah.
So if we had smaller power sources, you know, it'd be less centralized, more decentralized, and you get a pure connection, a better connection. And so that's what Theta does. Theta, they have like 13 nodes, you know, that are ran by some of the largest corporations out there, like Samsung and Sony. They're all hopping on board as well. And so they get paid with Theta Fuel in their services. They provide a service of this decentralization and making the markets more efficient, and that makes it easier and cheaper for us in the long run to utilize the internet and to utilize all these beautiful things.
So it's making a more efficient network.
Yeah.
So that's where the utility is behind it, and the actual practicality of it, where it provides value. And yeah, so that's where I was saying, like, the coins are a byproduct of that network. So they use the coins to incentivize people to be a part of that network and provide the value.
Mm-hmm. And it's cutting out the dollar part aspect. So now Theta has 1 billion coins out there available, and that's it. That's all that'll ever be created. So there's a certain trust factor. You know, I think the main thing about blockchain that I love about it so much is that it takes trust out of the
they
equation.
Call it trustless. There's some keywords out there that if you do study and get into this stuff that are out there, and
key concepts.
Yeah, concepts and that are implemented into the blockchain technology.
We can't trust the Federal Reserve. We can't trust the government
to have our best interest. So they call it trustless because you don't need the trust.
The trust is in the blockchain.
It's written into the software, and the network operates.
And because it's decentralized, you know, it's like having a library of data records, and each node takes
another thing,
copies that. So you know that you're getting what you paid for, and everybody else knows too as well.
Right. So that's the thing about the decentralized and having people, different nodes and different people in the network. It's a consensus once. So when you trade Bitcoin, it'll go through certain transactions, and it'll say it needs 60 transactions to be confirmed. That means you're sending it out, and people are looking at your ledger, your contract basically, and they're confirming it that, okay, this is legit. And then that's how that's where the trustless thing comes in. It's like,
yeah, it's so beautiful, because like with the banking system, you know, it takes 2-3 days for it to go throughout the whole system.
And another keyword is like proof of work, proof of stake, proof of this and that. So
and there's no counterfeit. There is no counterfeit Bitcoin. There's no counterfeit Ethereum,
because it's a checks and balance thing. It's like, and
like with the GameStop thing, when there was 140% of the stocks, you know, that got shorted, it's like you can never do that with the blockchain technology. There's only a certain amount, and you can't just make them up out of thin air. You know? And that's where the trust comes in. It's like, you know what you're getting, even though it's an invisible coin, it's on a ledger or whatever. It's the hardest currency that we have, you know, because of the fact that it can't be manipulated.
Well, that's why I keep encouraging people to like try to understand the concept of it, and like just try to just dig in and learn about it a little bit.
And on that point, like, a lot of these financial guys are recommending that you put 5% or 10% into blockchain. But I like thinking about, how well do you know it? If you don't know it very well at all, just start off with $100.
Right.
And that's then play around with it, you know? Yeah. And then when you become more comfortable with it, And that way you
Once
won't
you have
get
your
burned.
money in it, your emotions are in it, and then it makes you pay attention
You're
to what's going on. It
invested,
makes
yeah.
you ask questions and wonder why things are working the way they are and how they're working, and then you know just go down the rabbit hole, and
It's like people have all their money in cash, and it's like the least trustworthy asset that
exactly.
there is.
That's what's funny. That's why I keep comparing it to cash and the Fed Reserve and that whole system. It's like you guys are so like antitrust. You don't trust the freaking blockchain technology and
Well,
the
they don't
coins. It's
understand the
like,
value of it.
yeah, that's why it's like
They
you
don't
gotta,
get, they don't. And I'm trying to figure out how to explain to people why it's important for the future of humanity. Like Bitcoin is the most peaceful currency out there. We talk about the dollar and the petrodollar. It's like Saudi Arabia trades their oil for dollars because they know that we have their back.
yeah.
If they get messed with,
That's
here
what that
comes Uncle
video.
Sam.
That's what that video you sent me touched on, and I learned a lot about the petrodollar and how the dollar became so strong in the world because we basically came in and forced the like Saudi Arabia and these Middle Eastern oil producing countries to trade to use our money as the currency to buy it. Like so other countries had to adopt. That's why our dollar got strong was because if people wanted oil, they had to do it in dollars.
And
So
then they knew that we would protect them.
That's what it was. We
Using our
promised to use
currency.
our protect them with our military, and then Saudi Arabia was the first country, and then pretty much the other ones just signed on as well
And it's
too.
like, and then look at Gaddafi, like
yeah,
Libya
Gaddafi tried to go back
Iran,
on the gold standard,
and there's all this FUD
And he
over
got murked.
Iran, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that they don't use dollars because they're not playing ball with us.
Yeah,
And maybe they fund some terrorists, maybe not.
It's the network effect. The more people that are using the dollars around the world, the stronger it is. So that's the same thing with like the bit or crypto in general. It's like the more people that are on the network, the better it works. It's the network
more
effect.
trustworthy it is, the more efficient it is.
Yeah.
And it's inevitable, like Elon was saying.
Right.
Because once you figure out the game, once you figure out that you're playing the game and you don't really, I want to play by the same rules. That's all we really want. All I really want is to play. If we're going to play this game, let's all play on the level playing field.
And that's what it does. It decentralizes it and it democratizes it where people kind of, like you were saying, you could vote with your dollars pretty much like
Exactly. And then like, what does it mean to vote with your dollars? It's when you buy food, right? And you go to a fast food place.
Yeah.
Well, you're supporting
voting for them.
Yeah, you're voting for them, and you're also supporting an unhealthy lifestyle too.
Yeah.
So when you go to a local supermarket or whatever, and you buy the organic, you're voting for like a healthier alternative.
And like even more of a bigger picture, like a movement. You're adding on to that green, the healthy food movement.
There's going to be more Sprouts. So if you go shop at Sprouts
exactly.
instead of
It's
McDonald's, there's going to be more of that. Yeah.
Right.
And we've just relinquished so much of our personal sovereignty over to these corporations that, let's be honest, they're the ones that run our government. Facebook, Amazon, Twitter, they're so powerful. And guess how they got that way? Because that's where we give them our attention to these companies. Everybody orders if nobody orders from Amazon, they'd be gone. Maybe not overnight.
Yeah.
But
we're sacrificing convenience because we
for
slept on it so much and we allowed it to just happen and we were ignorant and unaware of it. This is where we're at now.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, yeah, well, but we were in an industrial country before all this. We were producers. Like
oh yeah.
Like
the middle class
craftsman tools we used to produce in the United States, and was like we were proud. Like if it said made in America, that was the shit, you know what I mean? And fucking it meant something. Now if it's just the opposite, made in China, it's like it's fucking shitty ass shit.
And they're the same corporations that started over here, and Nixon opened up the floodgates pretty much by allowing American companies to go over to China, and those same jobs that were manufacturing stuff in here has been outsourced to China. And guess what? Now our money that we saved up, our piggy banks going over there. So China's rise is directly
from us.
It came from our pocketbooks. And now, they're shooting up the charts. They're nipping at our heels. and they're a communist regime. They don't, I'm not saying America's the greatest, we have a lot more freedom than most countries, but we're subsidizing a communist regime that literally
Doesn't
has books, they've written books about how they want to take us out.
Yep, they hate us.
They hate us, and they're laughing at us right now. And a lot of the narrative coming over, from the mainstream media is like, oh, don't be xenophobic. I don't hate Chinese people. I don't hate anything.
No,
it's their form of government is evil.
Yeah. I think people need to look at the distinguish, like, okay, say Republican Democrats. Like, they're people, like, when you look at the people, they're people like us, you and me. But when you look at the politicians and the people that are higher up that are Republicans and Democrats, that's when it's different.
And they're so like them too, the politicians on the left and right, they're all the same. And even the people that are, us right. normal like people on the left or right, we all have the same interests.
We want to have a good
life. But we've been sold out by those people.
Exactly. They're using us. But yeah, like with the Chinese too, or whatever, it's like, no, like anytime there's a political thing or type of war, the common man, we are the common man. So, but we have things in common. That's why we're the common man. Like we like, you know what I mean? Like we don't want to go to war. And we don't want to fight a different person from a different country. No, our governments are pretty much making us do that. So it's not that we hate China or Chinese people. It's I
love Chinese people.
Yeah.
I love Chinese food. Yeah. I'm sure it'd be a cool place to go visit. I love Chinese history too.
Yeah.
They pretty much just ex-nate the rest of the world for 2,000 years because they're so far advanced, right? And then unfortunately the British got involved and started the Opium Wars.
Yeah.
And then they had this 100 years of shame pretty much. And now they're going to have 100 years pretty much of prosperity, but at what price though? In a totalitarian regime, which is, America is fast going that direction too, and whoever, if you're a Republican, you think that the Democrats are the fascists. And if you're a Democrat, you think the Republicans are the fascists. And it's like, you gotta look at the policies behind it, instead of the party, I look at policies. And unfortunately, with censorship and everything else going, like, we're losing the dialogue. Unfortunately, I have to say it, like, I really do feel like we're losing the information more at this moment, and that's why me and you are doing this, because I really feel like normal people, I really do consider myself just a normal person, and I'd like to have my point of view, broadcast out there. And if people disagree, and I can take it, let me know how you feel about it. If you think I'm wrong, that's fine. But we're not being able to have this discussion.
Yeah, having a healthy discord and disagreement where it's like, let's get further within our disagreement or whatever.
I mean, you don't agree on everything, but we're able to have a civilized discussion about it, so that after a disagreement we might have, I'll go and I'll look up and
exactly.
And if you have more stats on your side backing up your theory, then by all means I'll be like, okay, I
was
wrong.
You can at least just understand where I'm coming from. Like, okay,
you can agree to disagree, right? Yeah.
But yeah.
So that vilifying the opposition has got us nowhere. And I know it's corny to say to work together, but we gotta, it's like a 1-for-1, the compromise. So if people on the left want to say, this is where I would like, I want this to be better, say it's social programs or welfare, well, I think that it should be reciprocated by people on the right. And that's how we built such a great society in the first place, because it was built on compromise, and I'm more libertarian leaning, and I agree that, even though I don't really believe in the welfare state, because I think it cripples people and it makes them, pretty much makes them dependent on the state. I don't think that there should be no social net. I just think that people shouldn't rely on that. You know?
Definitely.
People are relying on handouts, and it's making them weak. It's making them, not sovereign citizens. So they don't have their own finances intact. And that what totalitarian regimes don't want is they don't want strong individuals, because strong individuals don't need the government.
Exactly.
And that's where this blockchain's coming into hand, because we're able to build a financial system outside of their corrupt system.
Yeah,
they don't like
it's
that.
Decentralized. Yeah, and so like one of the sectors within crypto is like, it's getting hot, is DeFi, decentralized financing. So it's like basically anything you can think of like even say insurance. I was thinking
Insurance and
like
loans,
loans, yeah, all that stuff. It's all happening
financing, and it's basically peer to
crypto.
peer. You know,
Yeah.
so people are taking their fiat dollars, they're putting it into these DeFi coins like Aave and Algorand.
So it's basically like if we as a group of people decided to come together using the power of the internet, and we come together and be our own bank, and we pool together money. You know, you add money to the pool, and then like people, you get paid off. Is this the same thing?
Same thing with interest. You actually get interest. If you were to go to the bank and put $100,000 in there, you're getting like maybe 1%.
Yeah.
And on with DeFi, you're able to get like 6, 7, 8, 9, up to even 20%. And like the higher the percent goes, the more risks there is involved with it. You know, but they're not into picking winners and losers like banks are, you know?
Right.
Look at what happened with the recent meltdown. It's like the airlines got bailed out, you know? The banks got bailed out. We got $1,800. You know, me personally, I got $1,800. And it's like, I don't want that. I just want the right to work.
Yeah, you know? Make money,
Yeah. Just don't tax me so much and let me go out and work. Okay, if masks work, then let me work, and if they don't work, then why do we have to wear them? You know, like let's just get on page with what makes sense. Like, we're not able to have a dialogue, we're not able to have a discussion about these masks because now you're called a mask Nazi or whatever. It's like, show me the proof, show me the studies that this is the best way to go about it, and then okay, we'll talk about it, and if you're right, then like by all means. But the arbitrariness of this whole thing is just like...
So that's where DeFi comes in too, right? With decentralized, say, like you're saying, the censorship. So Twitter's censoring shit. They could stop certain people from speaking. Instagram's kicking off people. Then they just kick off Robert
Trump and the Trump Kennedy. Towers, and they're taking his ability to transact. They're like, the banks aren't dealing with Trump anymore, you know, and regardless of how you feel about him. But taking somebody's right to work and utilize the banking system, taking that away, that's crippling. You know, so people are going to have to, because he was just the first one, and this is going to keep going down, and other people are going to have their, you know, their rights, banking rights taken away from them as well. So people are going to be forced into this direction. It's only been around like 6 months.
It's a very dangerous thing for that for people to be okay with it. No matter how you feel about anything, or the guy, politics, Trump, whatever, it's like people don't get that. You don't want to see that happen to anybody. Yeah, and for them to be able to have that power to just do that it's not a good thing.
It's short-sighted to think that whatever's happening to Trump right now, or conservatives, you know, don't think that it can't happen to you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, once your usefulness is expired, you know, they don't want competition like with BLM. You know, a lot of lefty progressives just got the boot from Twitter as well right now.
Really?
Yeah, like the day or two after Biden got inaugurated, a lot of Antifa pages, you know, all these people that fought against Trump, they're getting the axe just
tooted and booted.
They're getting treated the same way, and it's like, and I'm laughing because I'm like, you didn't think? What did you expect?
Exactly.
They don't want competition.
Hopefully they fucking learn that, and they learn that they're getting played.
And it's like, I'll be here to give you a hug too. I know it's traumatizing.
So
you know?
back to blockchain. So that we can implement blockchain into social media networks too. So where there's no person being like, oh, we gotta kick him off, we gotta kick them off, we can't have this being said on here. Nah, like it's open source.
Well, just like with Project Veritas getting kicked off of Twitter yesterday, I guess they're back. You know, but people are starting to finally realize that don't even play ball with them. You know, we need to get off of Twitter. Exactly. And the one crypto social media I saw was SoMe, and it's all blockchain oriented. So there's no one person, you know, making the calls, and it's
democratized,
and it's incensorable. Like, you cannot censor it, and you know, people are gonna have to be very careful with what they say, because I haven't really utilized it too much, but if you put something out there and you can't delete it, you better be sure this is what you want to say. So people are gonna have to be more concise and considerate of their actions and their words. You know, I think a lot of like people get in trouble because they type something all willy nilly, and then, oh shit, you know, there's repercussions for your actions and your words. You know, as well there should be. So I'm
Think about what you say.
think about what you say. Make sure you mean it.
Make
You
sure,
know,
yeah.
if you don't mean it, don't say it.
Make sure you did some research and
Yeah.
shit.
You know, I like trolling as much as anybody, but there's a time and a place for it, you know? So that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to is starting to utilize these social media outlets that are based around my ethics, you know? So, you know, I've utilized Facebook and I keep in touch with some people overseas, but I'm starting to use it less because I don't agree with the direction that they're going.
It's becoming obsolete, I think, is because...
And it's not liberating anymore, you know? It's...
And another thing we've talked about before, but these algorithms they use to keep people locked into these echo chambers where it's confirmation bias, to where they're only seeing and hearing things that confirm their own biases already. So it just makes them even more, like you're saying,
and it's divergent.
It's not having that healthy discord to where someone else comes with a different point of view that goes against yours, and it makes you even have to reconsider your own thinking. That's what you want. You don't want to just be like, I'm right. No,
you don't want to be in a silo. What they do with these algorithms is that they push you into a box of, you know, push you into a corner of the internet where all you're hearing is like-minded people. So when you do come across somebody with the opposite viewpoint, you're looking at them like they're an alien, because you haven't comprehended, you haven't thought about, maybe there is more, maybe I'm not 100% right. So when you don't hear the discord going on the other side, you're going to pick a team, you know, it's like us versus them. When it's like reality, we all have similarities. It shouldn't be such a competition between the left and right side.
And that's what actually people want. And I encourage people to seek out the adversity in your thinking. Seek that out. You don't want people to just come and tell you you're right all the time. You want people to tell you you're wrong, so you think about it,
because you're not progressing.
You're not progressing
because none of us are 100%.
And so that's what people on Facebook. I've had some debates. And people people come in. A lot of people have stuff to say at certain topics and stuff. And fuck, I forgot what I was saying.
It's I've lost a few friends, you know.
Oh,
even
but they
friends that I've known.
I look and I try to find those that disagree with me, and a lot of people don't. They want people to join them, and like I even had to tell my cousin one time because he like tried to jump in on this debate that I was having over the Facebook.
Don't gang up on him.
And I'm like, dude, I don't need your help. Like I can stand on my own. Like it only looks bad when we're trying to jump in and like no, I want to have a healthy discord with people.
One to one, you know, you say your point, and then you listen when they say their point, and then you can build off of that.
Yeah, I actually don't like it when people try to jump in and we jump someone
at
basically
the time,
on
it
Facebook.
Sounds great. You're like,
no, I don't. I'm
good.
like, no, don't do that because it makes me look bad. Like I don't
need help.
I don't. I have, you know, like. Yeah, I don't.
And like I was saying earlier, like I have no problem saying, you know, I'll consider it. You might be right, and then coming back later on after doing my own homework and saying, you know, thank you, because I was mistaken.
That's what you want. That's what we want.
And now I'm not going to make those mistakes anymore, which makes me a stronger, you know, better person. You know, at least with finances. If we can't all get behind finances, like. That's the one thing that controls all of our lives pretty much.
Exactly.
Is our financial situation. And when we're all playing in the same rigged game, like this is more reason to unify than ever. If we can get the message out there that we have a bone to pick with these reserve banks, you know, with these central bankers, and we have an answer for it now too. We're not just standing out on Wall Street bitching holding the sign.
So it's actually empowering for like the common man. Like we don't have a lot of dollars, but collectively we smarten up, learn how to use our dollars.
It makes sense. We don't have a lot of dollars, but now it's starting to make sense. And eventually one day we won't even need cash, you know? We're in a transitionary phase, and especially with technology too. Like technology, you know, goes like that, right? Yeah. And we're barely taking off the ground floor. So in 5 years, 10 years, you know, in 100 years, we're and with exponential.
This pandemic is actually forcing such a change. I think that's why. I think that's a big reason why. The blockchain and the crypto
ain't going back
right now,
bro.
It's been developing for years, and there's been teams of really smart computer programmers and developers that have been developing these concepts and actually putting them into real world software and shit and implementing the concepts, and it's fucking brilliant. And so that's been going on, and that's starting to develop more, and you can see it out there. And then yeah, just everything with the whole world, the global crisis, and like people printing money, or the get fed printing money. It's like people are waking up and being like, fuck, like we gotta do something different.
Yeah, a lot of the crypto developers are libertarian type minded people, which, you know, I don't like to throw myself into a box, but I believe in a lot of the libertarian principles, especially when it comes to the money system, you know. And I kind of like to think about, you know, these guys are doing, you know, the really hard work up here, but it's got to trickle down, and people have to be able to talk about it and relate to it, to the average, the common person that doesn't really understand blockchain, that doesn't understand its utility, right? And it's hard to, you know, the super smart geeks, it's when they start trying to describe,
it's almost like they're
it's a
just
foreign language, you know? So I'm trying
fiction.
I'm trying to learn this language to be able to put it into words the average person, you know, somebody that hasn't heard about it yet, so that they can understand it, just and understand its utility. Like we were saying earlier about a lot of people don't understand the necessity for it, the reason why it's such a beautiful thing. And my hope is that the more that I understand it, then I can disseminate it to you know, my friends and family, and then they can like, each one teach one. Yeah, exactly. The exponential factor.
Each one teach 10.
The network effect. Yeah, each one teach
I just made that up right now.
But well, that's the way it works. It's like we're our own little node right now.
Exactly.
You know?
And so diving into this, and it's only been a couple weeks. Like I threw some money in December at my first coin, and now I'm diving into I'm understanding blockchain, and that's what's way more fascinating to me. But damn, I forgot what I was gonna say again.
Well, you started with one thing, right? I think, didn't you first get Dogecoin, and then now you're like taking some of those profits and moving into some of the other aspects of the space.
But yeah, I've just been learning about it, and it's fucking pretty dope. It's empowering.
But yeah, as I learn more about, I feel more comfortable now putting more and more of my money into this area as I get comfortable with the technology, you know?
Right.
And I wouldn't recommend somebody taking their whole savings and, you know, but, you know, maybe $100 a month, or, you know, 200, whatever is extra that you'd be, you know, buying beer or whatever with, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
so that's what I was going to say. Actually, it has to do with that. Since I've dove into it and started really learning about the blockchain itself, not like, just crypto and making money, just like the blockchain technology. Like, it's so beautiful to me, and it's been making me change the way I see the world and how things work and how things could be. So that's one thing it's done, is just it's changed my understanding of
the potentiality of it.
Yeah.
You know? And I like not feeling desperate, or I like having options, you know?
Exactly.
It's like, you know, the escape valve. It's like when you realize that your world is ran by dollars, and dollars are a corrupt system. It's like, that's why I got into silver. I was like, well, you know, they can't take that away from me.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you know, I got a couple different wallets, and I'm utilizing how to do it. You know, sending stuff to friends and family. It's just, it's a whole new world.
It's a brand new place.
And it's already beautiful on the side, you know, on the shore that I'm at right now. It's already beautiful, and it can only just get more beautiful. And they can try and ban it. But they can't, you know, they can try and confiscate it, but it can't. You can't. Once you take your keys and you have them in your own cold wallet, I think there's nothing they can do to take it away from you.
They were so hard-headed for so long, but now they realize it. That's why they're all jumping on board now. It's too late. It's like, fuck, we can't beat them. Join them.
And that's why this, you know, a lot of people are worried, is the bull market over yet? And in my mind, it's barely just beginning.
I agree. That's why I'm personally trying to go in on it.
I think we've been in the bull market for about 4 or 5 months, ever since March. It crashed, you know, Bitcoin crashed to 4,000, you know, 3,800 in March. And it's been a steady march on upwards since then. But now we're getting the mass adoption. You know, it started with Michael Saylor, and he put 500 million in I think it was April or May, and that 500 he got in at
That's
like
the
15.
MicroStrategy guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he's the guy that influenced Musk to
Yep.
do his move
Yep.
with Bitcoin.
And so now you have the richest man in the world, putting 10% of his company's net worth into it.
People can't understand the richest man in the world is doing this, and they're still reluctant to fucking get it.
I don't know what we can do for you.
They need to be hit upside the head with the fucking...
Seriously. It's like, don't fight it. They say don't fight the Fed. Okay, well, this is the way we can actually fight the Fed.
Well, we don't even have to fight it. We could just create our own system. And that's what I'm always about. Like, fuck the system. Let's create our own systems.
Opt out. A little box at the end on your healthcare or whatever. Like, I'm opting out of the system, and I'm going to devote my time and energy towards building a system that morally feels good to me.
And it seems like that for sure. And then it seems like the path to least resistance for me, like trying to fight.
Water's going downhill.
We've been trying to do that, and it's like, wait, what's this over here?
Yeah, just streams go downhill, water goes downhill. Float down the middle of it. Don't grab onto the.
It's almost like Elon Musk said, it's inevitable. It was almost like it was just bound to happen at some point in time, like with the internet, and it's like, it just makes sense.
I see. And the reason why I agree with you is I see the pendulum swinging, like even when we go back to like, say, 2001 in the World Trade Center. And like ever since that's kind of kicked off the swing towards this, totalitarian, centralized, lock them down, take their freedoms and rights away. And that swing is just going to keep, the answer to that is this decentralized blockchain. So as they try and squeeze and control more and more, it's just like goo slipping out of your fingers.
Yeah.
And eventually you're gonna feel it. Eventually you're gonna squirt through because it was inevitable. Yeah. This is what happens. It's like when you're in a trash compactor, you either go up or down or you get smushed. So as more people realize that they're getting smushed, no matter what they do, it's opened up a lot of eyes. And hopefully I can be there to guide people and to not making some of the same mistakes I did, because I've lost, it's up to $500 now worth of Ethereum, sending it to the wrong addresses. And, that's the growing pains.
As simple as just sending it to the wrong address.
Yep.
Right?
I did the same thing with silver. I was getting into the silver game and I bought fake silver because I thought I was getting a great deal. Mm-hmm. Well, here it comes from China, and it's nickel plated or whatever. And it's like, so, but I've already, all the money that I've lost, I've already made that back on my investments.
You were just paying your dues,
And hopefully I don't want other people to make worse mistakes than that. Just pointing people in the right direction and say, look, avoid that pothole, on Fifth Street. It's like, that pothole's going to be there.
Someone's going to hit it. But...
and there are scammers in cryptocurrency and it's just like, people rob banks. People sell drugs. Like there's no pure, entity in any one thing. So you got to be vigilant and you got to watch out because people are going to try and scam you, not just in crypto,
Yeah, exactly.
The guy fixing your car is going to try and scam you, It's just, they're out there. It's just a life lesson that people are going to try and take advantage of you if they can.
Of course.
So hopefully I can help some people avoid some of the same mistakes I did, Yeah. And that would make it'll actually, like I said, it'll shore up the network. The more people that get into it and don't get burned, the better.
Yeah, I agree.
But
what else you got in there?
I think we covered it. Well, the only other thing is like the world currency, kind of how the replacement of the dollar, Bitcoin could be a replacement as the world reserve currency. And I think that might be the best alternative to the dollar, and because we don't want to give China, a lot of people are talking about the yuan becoming the world reserve currency because they're the rising power, but it's not too difficult to see some of the issues with having a communist regime control the world's currency, Yeah. And Vladimir Putin is actually he's railing against the Great Reset. The Great Reset they've been talking about. Well, they just had the Davos they just had the Davos discussion, and I never thought I'd say it, but damn, I'm thankful for Putin because he's keeping these globalists in check.
Really?
Yeah, because they want to, control the world with AI, basically.
Yeah.
They want to use universal basic income to create basically a class of slaves, where you just stay home, you collect your $1,000 or $2,000 a month, and then we let these major big, conglomerate corporations pretty much run the world with AI, algorithms and robotics and everything. They don't want sovereign individuals. They don't want empowered people. They don't really like the Elons that are free thinkers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with the Great Reset is basically you'll own nothing and be happy. They want you to rent everything. And the issue with that is a centralization of power. And Putin pretty much came out and said like, we ain't doing that. And that's an important thing to have Russia kind of on board. And so even though, they might not be adopting Bitcoin, I think the interesting thing out here is that there are areas of the world that aren't playing game with, the New World Order, for instance. So
that's
Bitcoin,
interesting because Russia is a communist country too, right?
they were, the USSR, yeah. And Putin's still probably a dictator, but not all dictators are completely evil.
Yeah.
So I think he's not above killing anybody, that's for sure. But at least he's not trying to play the game of the globalists. Russia's actually in a unique situation because they don't use the dollar. They don't trade with the dollar. So they don't have a bunch of debt. It's like America has $28 trillion in debt, and a lot of it's to China and a lot of it is through the Fed. Well, Russia doesn't have that problem. So they don't have as much, they don't have the excess that we have. So
they play the game differently.
They play a different game. Yeah. And a ruble is worth a ruble at this point. It's not. There's no derivatives. The dollar in the stock market is just. They make it so complicated, so you can't understand it.
Yeah, exactly.
And like blockchain and crypto, it might sound complicated at first, but it's nowhere near as complicated as trying to figure out what the hell a derivative is.
Yeah.
And they use that manipulation to control, the gold and silver markets, for instance. The silver, for every ounce of real silver, there's 500 paper contracts of that ounce.
Yeah. So basically, they are making money off of saying what they're going to sell those.
It's an IOU, basically.
IOU,
it's basically just an IOU. So, like I said, if I understood derivatives like completely.
So that's why it's important to buy actual silver or gold. I had someone ask me that, and it was as far as like, I was like, just buy the real shit because you can go out there and buy the contracts and think you have a value, but it's just the promissory note.
And if enough of the people that owned the paper contracts, if they actually asked for delivery, that would ruin the game. And so the people that are playing the game don't want it to be over yet.
Okay, so there's actually a crypto out there that has the same idea.
I saw that.
It's like right up. It's the same price as the ounce of gold, like 1,800, and so you supposedly they have real gold reserves, and you're supposed to be able to cash out on it with the fee.
With blockchain and with the QR codes, I think that's the future of where things are going. So imagine if you had an ounce, maybe more than that, maybe a 100-ounce bar of silver, and you could actually put a QR code on that bar of silver, and so you could trade it with paper or whatever, but you would know like this is actually here. And say you bought the paper ounce of it, they could take the QR code.
It's your receipt, basically.
Yeah, they could and say, okay, this is yours. And if you want it delivered, we can deliver it to you. But if you want to trade with it, we'll keep it here safe for you.
Right.
So you actually have an ownership of it.
Right.
With these paper contracts, any ounce is good as any other ounce, right? It's not really yours. You don't own it, and you can't. You can't really ask for possession of it. So the paper market is just a big scheme where they add and subtract 50 million ounces of silver whenever they want. If the price starts going too high, they add 50 million ounces to drive the price down.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a complete Ponzi scheme. and JP Morgan's involved with it, Virtue Financial is involved with it, and BlackRock. They own $7 trillion worth of assets. These are the big players, and poor GameStop kids didn't realize that they were running into like real money. They had a great idea. I'm glad that they did it. It's brought awareness to the fact that the stock market is just one big freaking scheme. And hopefully people understand that we do have an outlet. You don't have to play their game. Like, fuck the stock market.
Yeah.
It's ran by these globalists, bro.
Yeah, I was learning about the stock market and had a couple bucks. I still have a couple bucks in ones that are doing good, but I pulled my money out. I'm like, I'm gonna fuck with the crypto.
I got some
dude.
silver miners and stuff, but it's like I played the game just to mess with it a little bit, and then I'm like, I don't want to play this game.
Nah.
They're playing by different rules.
Especially when you dive a little bit deeper, and we know that it's just being inflated based off of our dollar being inflated, and that's gonna burst.
Yeah, it's like if we lost our money, we're not getting bailed out. But if BlackRock loses $7 trillion, they're getting bailed out by the Federal Reserve. And it's like, it's not fair. You know?
Yeah. With the common person always gets fucked. The big guys always look out for their own interests and their buddies' interests and shit.
And there's nothing we can do about that game. We can just decide not to play it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of people are going to lose some of their retirement too. And
the pensions, they're doing so much manipulation with all that shit. So, and you don't really see what's going on. So that's why the blockchain is dope, because you could actually see what's going on. I haven't really got into it yet and actually checked up on it, but theoretically that's what they say. Like everything's like out there on an open ledger where you could check and see all the transactions that have been done. Yeah. It's written into the software where you could go and dive in and look at that.
It gives you way more control and understanding of exactly,
That'd be cool to go in and try to look at
I've
that.
done it before, the hash rates and everything.
Oh, really?
You can look at it and you can see all the transactions.
Yeah.
Like you can see, this person sent 0.0056 Bitcoin over here, or they received this much.
Yeah.
So all the wallets and all that stuff is out there. Yeah, it's cool. I think Ethereum's got one that you can look at.
That's dope as fuck.
So, there's the trust, You think they're doing that for GameStop? Hell no. The obscurity is what gives them the power in that game.
Yeah.
They don't want you knowing what's going on, because otherwise it's all a lie.
Exactly.
So
that's the beauty of it. All right, well, that was a good one. Good one, man. I think we're good.
Good shit.
All right, cool.
Oh.